Listen to me carefully. The greatest battles you will ever fight will not be fought in boardrooms, classrooms, or on the streets. The greatest battles are waged inside of you. Your emotions can either be your prison or your passport. Your emotions can hold you hostage to anger, fear, and frustration, or they can propel you toward wisdom, peace, and prosperity. Emotional control is not weakness. It is the highest form of strength. Emotions are signals, not steering wheels. They are indicators of what's happening inside of you, pointing toward the condition of your heart, your thoughts, and your perceptions, but they were never meant to drive your decisions. When you treat emotions as steering wheels, you surrender your direction to temporary feelings, and temporary feelings can take you on a permanent detour. The danger is that feelings fluctuate, they rise and fall like the tide. And if you let them dictate your path, you will always drift off course. The person who learns to interpret emotions as messages instead of commands will always stand stronger and move farther. When fear rises up, it is a signal. It is telling you that there's risk, there's uncertainty, there's something beyond your comfort zone. But if you let fear drive, it will slam the brakes on your potential every time. If you treat it as a signal, you can pause, evaluate, and prepare with wisdom. Fear is not a stop sign, it is a caution light. It tells you to look closely, to sharpen your focus, to rise with greater awareness. When you treat it as a steering wheel, you will stay parked in the same place for years. But when you treat it as a signal, you will keep moving forward. Anger is also a signal. It reveals what you value, what you will not tolerate, what offends your sense of justice or integrity. But when anger is allowed to take the wheel, it becomes destructive. Words are spoken that cannot be taken back. Bridges are burned that are not easily rebuilt, and opportunities are destroyed that may never return. When anger is seen as a signal, however, it can point you to an area that requires attention. It can remind you that something must be addressed, boundaries must be established, or growth must be pursued. Anger, properly understood, is an invitation to align yourself with solutions rather than explode into destruction. Sadness is a signal. It speaks of loss, of longing, of the weight of love or dreams unmet. It is not weakness, it is a sign of humanity. But when sadness is allowed to steer, it paralyzes motion. It convinces you that tomorrow will look like yesterday and that the pain you feel today will last forever. If you accept it as a signal, you recognize that it points you toward healing, toward reflection, toward appreciation of what truly matters. Sadness becomes a teacher when you don't hand it the keys to your destiny. Joy is also a signal, and it too can mislead when it is given full control. Joy tells you when you are aligned with your values, when gratitude fills your heart, when your soul is light. But if you let joy alone steer your direction, you may make choices out of comfort instead of conviction, choosing what feels good over what is necessary. Joy signals you to celebrate, to appreciate, to recognize the blessings around you, but it must be balanced with wisdom. It is a powerful motivator, but not a reliable navigator on its own. Every emotion you experience is a message. It is the dashboard light of your soul flashing to tell you what's happening inside. You would never allow a blinking light on your car's dashboard to grab the steering wheel and drive you into traffic. Yet people allow emotions to do that every day. Signals are there to inform you, not to direct you. They remind you that attention is needed, that adjustments are required, that reflection is necessary. Ignoring the signals is dangerous, but obeying them blindly is destructive. When you begin to view emotions as signals, you also learn how to master patience. You learn not to act impulsively in the heat of a feeling. because you understand that feelings are temporary, but the consequences of emotional decisions are permanent. You can pause, process, and then proceed with wisdom. This separation between the signal and the steering allows you to gain clarity, to act in alignment with your purpose rather than in reaction to your impulses. The difference between people who rise in life and people who remain stuck often comes down to how they handle signals. The successful person doesn't ignore emotions, but they don't idolize them either. They listen, they interpret, and then they choose with discipline. The person who lets emotions take the wheel lives a life of reaction, constantly swinging between highs and lows, never steady, never consistent, never in control of their own path. The person who treats emotions as signals walks with stability, with clarity, with a compass that is set beyond the storm. This shift in perspective transforms relationships as well. When you see anger as a signal instead of a steering wheel, you communicate differently. When you see fear as a signal instead of a steering wheel, you step into opportunities instead of shrinking back. When you see joy as a signal instead of a steering wheel, you celebrate without becoming careless. Emotional maturity is not the absence of feelings. It is the understanding of their role. They guide your awareness, but not your actions. They sharpen your vision, but not your choices. Ultimately, the one who learns that emotions are signals, not steering wheels, becomes unshakable. They rise above the chaos of reaction, and they move forward with the clarity of intention. They do not deny emotions. They do not suppress them, but they place them in their proper place. They read the signal, they interpret the message, and then they choose the direction with wisdom, strength, and discipline. Reactions determine results because every outcome you face in life is shaped less by what happens to you and more by how you respond to what happens. Two people can encounter the exact same challenge, but one reacts with fear and hesitation while the other reacts with faith and determination, and their futures will look completely different. The circumstances are not what separates them. It is their response. Life constantly presents situations you cannot control, but what you can always control is the reaction you choose, and that choice is what determines whether you rise or fall. When adversity strikes, most people default to panic, frustration, or blame. They allow the heat of the moment to dictate their next move, and those impulsive reactions lead to regret. Yet the person who pauses, breathes, and responds with clarity positions themselves for better results. Reactions are like seeds. You plant them in the soil of every situation, and in time they produce fruit, whether good or bad. If you react with negativity, you reap chaos. If you react with composure, you reap progress. Opportunities are often hidden inside of problems, but you can only see them if your reaction is steady. The wrong reaction blinds you to solutions, while the right reaction illuminates them. Imagine someone losing a job. One reacts with despair and convinces themselves they are defeated, while another reacts with resourcefulness and sees it as a chance to start something new. The same event produces two different destinies because the reactions shape the results. Even in relationships, reactions determine whether bonds are strengthened or broken. A harsh word spoken to you gives you the option to either retaliate with anger or respond with patience. One reaction escalates conflict, the other builds understanding. Many people destroy trust, respect, and opportunities not because of what was said or done to them, but because of how they chose to react in the heat of the moment. The reaction magnifies or minimizes the situation, and it becomes the deciding factor in the outcome. Your reactions are also signals of your discipline. Anyone can react impulsively, but it takes strength to respond with intention. The person who controls their reactions demonstrates mastery over themselves, and that mastery creates influence. Others begin to trust them, rely on them, and follow them because they know this person will not collapse under pressure. When your reactions are measured and grounded, doors of opportunity open that remain closed to those who cannot control themselves. Pressure is the proving ground of reactions. When life is easy, it is simple to smile, stay calm, and speak with grace. But the true test comes when the unexpected happens, when the storm rises, when disappointment hits. How you react in those moments reveals your character and sets in motion the trajectory of your future. Pressure does not build character, it exposes it, and reactions under pressure become the evidence of who you are becoming. Fear is one of the most common triggers of reaction. When fear strikes, some people freeze and lose momentum, while others fight forward with courage. Both feel the same emotion, but their results are not the same. The fearful reaction leads to stagnation. The courageous reaction leads to growth. Fear is inevitable, but letting it control your reactions is optional. Choosing a reaction of courage in the presence of fear rewrites your future and proves that victory is possible in the face of uncertainty. Anger is another powerful trigger of reaction. It can either destroy or build, depending on how it is handled. Reacting in anger without thought burns bridges and sabotages opportunities, but reacting with restraint channels the energy into constructive action. Some of the greatest changes in history were sparked by anger that was redirected into progress rather than explosions. The emotion itself is not the problem. The reaction to it determines whether it leads to destruction or transformation. Reactions also shape the pace of your progress. Quick, careless reactions often lead to delays, setbacks, and unnecessary obstacles. Thoughtful, intentional reactions accelerate your growth because they keep you aligned with your vision. Every reaction is like a step taken in the wrong direction. It takes you further from your goal, but taken with wisdom, it moves you closer to fulfillment. Small reactions, repeated over time, accumulate into habits, and those habits produce either a cycle of regret or a pattern of success. Every day you are given countless opportunities to react, from small inconveniences to major challenges. Each one may seem insignificant in the moment, but together they compound into the life you are building. The person who trains themselves to react with patience, focus, and determination will find themselves steadily advancing, while the one who reacts with negativity, doubt, and impulsiveness will find themselves stuck in cycles of frustration. Reactions may seem like small choices, but they are in fact the architects of results. Control is not suppression, but redirection, because suppressing emotions only buries them alive, while redirection transforms them into power. When people suppress what they feel, they are not eliminating the emotion, they are only hiding it under the surface where it grows, festers, and eventually explodes. True control is not about denying your humanity or pretending you don't feel what you feel. It is about acknowledging the energy of the emotion and choosing where to channel it. Suppression drains, but redirection empowers. Anger, for example, is one of the most misunderstood emotions. When suppressed, it corrodes the soul, leading to bitterness, resentment, and a silent poison that damages relationships and inner peace. But when anger is redirected, it becomes fuel for passion, creativity, and purposeful action. Instead of yelling or breaking, you can write, build, teach, or fight for justice. Anger redirected is the reason movements for change have risen. It is the energy behind breakthroughs when someone decides they will no longer accept limitations. Fear is another emotion that often gets suppressed, but hiding fear doesn't make it disappear. It simply shows up in hesitation, procrastination, or avoidance. Suppression allows fear to control from the shadows. Redirection, however, transforms fear into focus. When fear arises, it can sharpen your awareness, make you more cautious in planning, and drive you to prepare more thoroughly. Fear, redirected, becomes a tool for wisdom rather than a chain of paralysis. It no longer holds you back, it sharpens your edge. Even sadness carries a powerful lesson about redirection. Suppressing sadness may seem like strength, but it only creates numbness and disconnect from your true self. When sadness is redirected, it becomes compassion, empathy, and connection. It reminds you of what you value, of the love that shaped you, of the experiences that matter. Redirected sadness can lead to acts of kindness, deeper relationships, and the creation of art, music, or writing that touches lives. It becomes a bridge instead of a barrier. Joy, too, needs redirection, because when left uncontrolled, it can lead to recklessness. Suppressing joy steals celebration, but redirecting joy allows it to energize and inspire. When joy is directed into gratitude, it multiplies blessings. When joy is directed into encouragement, it lifts others. Redirected joy becomes a sustaining force that keeps you steady through challenges, reminding you of why you keep going. Suppression of joy creates emptiness, but redirection creates overflow. Control as redirection is the art of mastery over self. It takes discipline to pause when emotions flare and to ask, how can I use this energy for something greater? That pause is what separates those who spiral from those who rise. Suppression ignores the question entirely, but redirection takes ownership of the answer. This principle allows you to transform even the most volatile inner storms into purposeful energy that builds rather than destroys. Redirection also gives emotions meaning. If you suppress what you feel, you strip your experience of depth, pretending that nothing affects you. But if you redirect, you extract the lesson from the feeling. Anger teaches you what matters to you. Fear teaches you where you need growth. Sadness teaches you what you cherish. Joy teaches you what fulfills you. When you redirect, you allow the lesson to shape your path rather than letting the raw emotion hijack it. This principle is especially powerful in relationships. Suppression creates distance between people because unspoken emotions eventually erupt or cause walls to rise. Redirection, on the other hand, turns tension into conversation, anger into advocacy, fear into vulnerability, and sadness into connection. Relationships flourish when people learn to redirect emotions into expressions that heal and build instead of tear down. Suppression is avoidance, but redirection is transformation. Suppression is pretending, but redirection is empowering. Suppression locks away potential, but redirection releases it. This is why people who learn the art of redirection often seem unshakable. They feel everything that others feel, but instead of being imprisoned by it or denying it, they choose to channel it toward a higher purpose. This makes them leaders, creators, and builders in a world full of reactors. The truth is that emotions are energy, and energy is never destroyed, only transferred. When you suppress emotions, you let that energy destroy you internally. When you redirect emotions, you take that same energy and convert it into something useful, productive, and transformative. Control is not the death of emotion, it is the rebirth of emotion in a higher form. And this distinction is what separates suppression from redirection. Greatness requires composure, because without the ability to remain calm under pressure, even the most talented and gifted individuals can lose everything they've built in a single moment of weakness. Composure is not the absence of emotion, it is the mastery of it. It is the ability to stay steady when the storm rages, to think clearly when others are panicking, and to act with wisdom when others are reacting with impulse. Greatness is not simply about skill or opportunity. It is about the capacity to remain grounded when the weight of responsibility increases and the challenges intensify. Composure is the foundation of sound decision-making. When your mind is clouded with anger, fear, or panic, your decisions become short-sighted, reactive, and destructive. The leader who cannot control themselves cannot guide others. And the visionary who cannot stay calm in chaos will never see their vision come to life. Those who achieve greatness understand that composure gives them the space to think strategically, to weigh options carefully, and to choose the path that leads to progress rather than regret. In moments of crisis, people look for stability, and the one who maintains composure becomes the anchor for others. Teams rally around calm leadership because it reassures them that progress is still possible. Families lean on those who can stay level, headed during trials, because composure brings security. Communities trust the person who does not collapse under pressure, because composure communicates strength. Greatness is not only measured by what you accomplish, but by how many people can depend on you when circumstances are uncertain. Composure also protects your reputation. It only takes one uncontrolled outburst to undo years of respect and credibility. Words spoken in anger or actions taken in panic can damage trust in ways that are not easily repaired. Those who are remembered for greatness are remembered not just for what they achieved, but for the way they carried themselves in adversity. Composure ensures that your character is as great as your accomplishments, because it proves that your discipline is stronger than your emotions. The battlefield of life will always present unexpected challenges, and it is in those moments that composure separates winners from losers. When obstacles appear suddenly, those without composure collapse under frustration and discouragement, but those with composure rise above circumstances with clarity and persistence. Greatness demands the ability to keep moving forward, and composure is what allows you to keep walking even when the ground is shaking beneath your feet. Composure is also a weapon against manipulation. When people know they can provoke you, they can control you. But when you remain calm regardless of what others do or say, you maintain your power. The ability to stay composed under criticism, provocation, or attack makes you untouchable. The one who loses composure loses control, but the one who keeps composure keeps authority. Greatness belongs to those who are not swayed by emotions, opinions, or chaos around them, because their focus is on the mission, not the noise. Training composure is not easy because it requires practice in the small moments. It is developed when you refuse to react to every inconvenience, when you choose patience in traffic, when you hold your tongue in an argument, when you breathe deeply before responding to frustration. These small decisions build the discipline necessary to stay composed in bigger challenges. Greatness is built in the ordinary moments long before it is revealed in extraordinary ones, and composure is forged through daily discipline. Composure is also the secret to resilience. Life will test you with setbacks, failures, and disappointments, but composure allows you to recover without being broken. Instead of drowning in emotion, you find perspective. Instead of collapsing in despair, you find solutions. The ability to face adversity with composure creates endurance. And endurance is the mark of greatness because it ensures that no setback can permanently stop you. Those who achieve greatness often appear calm on the surface, even when everything around them is turbulent. This is not because they don't feel the weight of challenges, but because they have trained themselves to master their inner world. Composure is a reflection of inner strength, and that strength shines brightest when circumstances are darkest. It is in the face of struggle that composure reveals itself as the essential quality of greatness. The world is filled with talented people who never rise to greatness because they could not hold themselves together when it mattered most. Talent may open the door, but composure keeps you in the room. Opportunities may come, but only those who remain steady in the midst of pressure can maximize them. Greatness requires composure because it ensures that no matter what comes, you remain in control of yourself, your choices, and your destiny. You are the gatekeeper of your soul, and that means nothing enters your inner world without your permission. Thoughts, emotions, and influences are constantly knocking at the door of your heart, but you hold the authority to decide what gets in and what must stay out. Just as a guard protects the entrance of a fortress, you are responsible for protecting your mind and spirit from anything that can weaken, corrupt, or distract you. The strength of your soul depends on how faithfully you manage the gates, because what you allow in will eventually shape what flows out of you. Every day, countless voices try to enter your soul. The voice of fear whispers limitations. The voice of doubt questions your ability. The voice of negativity paints everything in darkness. If you open the gate to those voices, they will plant seeds that grow into insecurity, hesitation, and defeat. But when you choose to close the gate to destructive voices and open it only to faith, hope, and courage, you cultivate a soul that produces strength and resilience. Being the gatekeeper means you are not a passive receiver of thoughts, you are an active selector of influences. Relationships, too, require the discernment of a gatekeeper. Not every person deserves full access to your heart. Some come to build, encourage, and uplift, while others come to drain, deceive, or distract. If you let everyone inside without discretion, you risk giving power to those who will sabotage your destiny. To guard your soul, you must recognize who adds to your life and who subtracts from it. Gatekeeping is not about isolation, it is about wisdom. Knowing who has earned the right to walk with you and who must be kept at a distance. The same is true for the information you consume. What you watch, what you read, what you listen to, all are knocking at the gate. If you constantly allow in negativity, gossip, or destructive images, they will shape the atmosphere of your soul. Your inner life reflects the content you allow inside. The gatekeeper understands that the soul thrives on truth, wisdom, and inspiration, so they feed themselves with what strengthens instead of what weakens. Guarding the gate means being intentional about the diet of your spirit. Being the gatekeeper also requires control over emotions. Anger, jealousy, bitterness, and fear all seek entry, but they only dominate when you open the door. As the gatekeeper, you can acknowledge their presence without granting them access. You can choose to let peace, patience, and gratitude enter instead. When emotions knock, your response decides the condition of your soul. A guarded soul is not free from feelings, but is guided by principles stronger than passing emotions. Opportunities and challenges alike approach the gate of your soul, and your response determines how they shape you. Some opportunities appear attractive, but carry hidden traps of compromise. Some challenges seem heavy, but carry within them lessons that strengthen you. As the gatekeeper, you must look beyond the surface and discern what should be welcomed and what should be refused. Discernment at the gate ensures that your soul is not swayed by appearances, but anchored by wisdom. The gatekeeper's role also includes protecting focus. Distractions are relentless. They come disguised as entertainment, gossip, trivial pursuits, or unnecessary conflicts. If you keep opening the gate to distractions, your energy will be scattered and your purpose diluted. The guarded soul keeps the gate locked against distractions and wide open to discipline, vision, and persistence. Focus is preserved when you guard the entry points of your attention and refuse to let everything demand your time. Every wound and every influence from the past also approaches the gate of your present. Memories of failure, rejection, or betrayal often try to enter and control the present moment. As the gatekeeper, you must decide whether to allow the past to shape your now or to keep the gate shut to destructive patterns. Guarding your soul means refusing to give past pain the power to dictate present possibilities. The gate is your decision point, and you hold the authority to stop cycles of negativity from re-entering your life. Gatekeeping is an act of responsibility, but it is also an act of empowerment. The moment you realize that nothing can control you unless you grant it access, you reclaim power over your destiny. No insult can define you unless you open the gate to it. No failure can destroy you unless you let it inside. No fear can paralyze you unless you allow it to take root. By standing firm at the gate, you take ownership of your life and ensure that your soul remains aligned with growth, strength, and vision. To be the gatekeeper of your soul is to live with awareness that everything external seeks entry, but only you decide what is permitted. Every influence, every word, every thought is a guest that must first be allowed through your gate. If you guard it with wisdom, your soul becomes a sanctuary of peace, strength, and purpose. If you neglect it, your soul becomes vulnerable to invasion and control. The power is yours, the responsibility is yours, and the authority has always been in your hands, for you are the gatekeeper of your soul. Emotional control creates freedom because when you govern your inner world, nothing outside of you can dictate your destiny. Most people believe freedom is the absence of rules or restrictions. But real freedom is the ability to move forward without being chained by impulsive reactions. The person who cannot control their emotions is enslaved by them, tossed around by every circumstance and every word spoken against them. But the person who disciplines their emotions rises above circumstances, choosing direction instead of being dragged by reaction. That choice is where freedom begins. When you control your emotions, you break free from manipulation. People lose power over you when they realize they cannot provoke or control your mood. If someone's words can ruin your day, they own your peace. If circumstances can shift your joy, they control your direction. But when you maintain emotional control, you reclaim ownership of your inner state. You no longer give others the keys to your happiness or the authority to disrupt your purpose. That independence is the essence of freedom. Freedom also shows itself in decision making. Emotional impulses often lead to regret, whether it's an angry outburst, a fearful hesitation, or a reckless indulgence. Each poor decision tightens the chains of consequence, leaving you stuck in cycles you wish you could escape. Emotional control allows you to pause, reflect, and choose wisely. It opens the door to choices aligned with long-term vision rather than short-term feelings. The ability to respond with wisdom instead of reaction creates freedom from regret and positions you for progress. Financial and professional freedom are also tied to emotional control. Countless people sabotage opportunities because they cannot control frustration, arrogance, or impatience. Others miss chances because they let fear and insecurity hold them back. Emotional control ensures you can negotiate without pride, persevere without panic, and innovate without fear. It is the reason some people advance in their careers or businesses while others remain stuck, because freedom in the external world always begins with freedom in the internal world. Relationships, too, are shaped by emotional control. Without it, conflict escalates, trust erodes, and bonds break. But when you discipline your emotions, you respond with patience instead of anger, with empathy instead of indifference, with forgiveness instead of bitterness. This creates freedom in relationships because it removes the weight of grudges, the chains of resentment, and the prison of unnecessary conflict. Emotional control liberates you to love fully without being a prisoner of offense. Emotional control creates freedom from fear because fear often paralyzes people before they even attempt greatness. When you manage fear, you are not denying its presence, but you are denying its control. You can still move forward while afraid, choosing courage over paralysis. This freedom allows you to attempt what others only dream of, to seize opportunities others avoid, and to walk into unknown territory with confidence. It is emotional mastery that breaks the chains of fear and allows you to live boldly. Another form of freedom comes in the ability to endure challenges. Life will always bring storms, disappointments, and setbacks, but emotional control ensures you do not drown in them. Without it, you are tossed around by despair, frustration, and hopelessness. With it, you stand steady, finding solutions while others are collapsing. This freedom means your life is not dictated by circumstances, but by your capacity to endure, adapt, and keep moving. That resilience frees you from the prison of hopelessness. Freedom also flows into your mental clarity. An uncontrolled mind is constantly consumed by anxiety, anger, or distraction, leaving no room for vision. Emotional control clears space for focus and creativity. You are free to think clearly, free to imagine, and free to plan your future with precision. Instead of being weighed down by uncontrolled emotions, you gain the mental space to dream, to innovate, and to design the life you desire. Even spiritually, emotional control creates freedom. It frees you from the burden of guilt, shame, and uncontrolled impulses that pull you away from purpose. It allows you to align your actions with values, to live in integrity, and to remain grounded when temptations come. Spiritual freedom is not about escaping feelings, but about governing them so that they do not rule over you. When you master your emotions, you walk in harmony with your higher calling. The more you practice emotional control, the more you realize that freedom is not found in external circumstances, but in the mastery of your inner state. External freedom without internal control will always collapse because the greatest enemy is not the world outside, but the turmoil inside. Emotional control creates freedom from manipulation, from regret, from fear, from brokenness, from hopelessness, from distraction, and from defeat. It opens the door to a life of discipline, clarity, strength, and peace where nothing outside can dictate the course of your destiny.